today, and why the millennial generation is starting to give up because they can't afford to get a good job or own a house.
8 million Venezuelans voting for this assembly, saying it's actually less than 3.
It is, and people are going to start rioting in the streets.
Was reported to have asked Putin for military support that would help him stay in power.
We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
And they ignore him, and 8 more years goes by till Bernie himself finally admits to his sons, hey, I've been running a Ponzi scheme.
Does its dominance mean it can use the alliance for its own ends?
Since 1981, bond yields, also known as coupon rates, have just gone down and down and down.
Federal Reserve note will be your biggest financial liability.
We're live. RTD Live Talk, the first live stream in the month of August 2019. And so looking forward to having a little back and forth this evening. More importantly, as you can tell from tonight's title, I'm starting to put together the pieces of the puzzle. And I actually wanted to respond to a comment left from the video done earlier about someone referencing, I do a good job of covering the problems, but don't really share much information on the solutions. And so I want to definitely touch on a couple thoughts tonight, as well as get your guys' take, because we're all in the same boat together. And so definitely want to cover some things, but more importantly, put together a couple different articles here that kind of strings things along to where it'll be quite easy to tell where this thing is going and kind of why it's happening the way that it's happening and why it's speeding up. But before I dive into that, as you guys can see tonight, I want to stay true to myself. So I got a little timer right here. So I had a timer, I think it was about a year ago, and for whatever reason could not stay on time, because I've noticed the longer the live streams are, the more drawn out they are. And so definitely want to just make them short, concise, and give you guys a chance to call in and get as many questions answered or thoughts shared as I can. So the phone lines are open, 1313-462-0027. Want to get straight down to business and then go from there. So by the time this clock hits 0, we will be finished for this live stream. So with that being the case, feel free, if you got thoughts or concerns you want to touch on, feel free to give me a call. I'm going to acknowledge a couple people in the chat as always. If we have any new viewers, feel free to let me know where you're watching from. I want to definitely acknowledge your presence. Appreciate you for doing such. We got Spirit King from Lisbon. How you doing, my friend? We got low blood pressure. Anthony M says buy Bitcoin, buy gold, buy silver. Student of Life, we got Trump Howell, hello. Who else? Pablo Pino, Ace One, low blood pressure. Everything else says, Mike, good evening. How you doing, Rhonda? Anthony M, it says, well, that person is a turd. We're talking here, not saying the word, saving the world. Yeah. So, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, the biggest thing is I like having an opportunity to share news as it unfolds or as it comes across my desk for the most part, and get your guys' thought on it. But more importantly, we're in this together. We're all trying to understand how this monetary system is unfolding and how more so to prepare ourselves along the way so that on the other end of this, after the system reboots, that we'll be in better position than we are before this economic implosion. So that being the case, gold. And so the title of this video here, Central Banks Dropping Rates, Buying Gold, and Conventional Wisdom tells you to stay practical, do what has always worked. But yet one thing I wanted to make sure I emphasize is that we are now, after Jerome Powell basically cut rates, not necessarily because, I guess, the fundamentals or their own data plots and all the things that they claim they watch, their own data, they've gone aside from that now they're trying to preserve this expansion, as he said, and so they're taking a completely radical approach. What is going on currently in this monetary system with the cutting of rates prior to an official recession has never been done before, and so they have broken all tradition, all conventional ways of preserving and doing business. I mean, as an entity. I mean, so right now they're extremely radical with their policy by this cut, because this won't be the last cut. They will cut again before this year is out, because they're going to find that cutting helps ease some of the pressure on them, and it appeases our president. So they're going to keep cutting. And as they're cutting, all that's going to do is inflate the bond market, keep it from collapsing. Commercial debt is about to go through the roof. And so the debt will continue to go on, which can keep this thing going a little bit longer. But yet what's going to happen is there's going to be some type of event that occurs outside of this country. And more than likely, I got a feeling it might be Deutsche Bank, because as I mentioned a while back, they're withdrawing $1 billion a day. And so all the hedge fund people, all the people that are in the know, they're getting the hell out of Dodge. And so the people who know what's happening currently, they're out of harm's way for the most part. And so who does that leave in the direct line of fire? It leaves your every average day, every Joe Blow worker, 9 to 5 person that has no clue as to what's happening around them. Like I was watching yesterday, involved in some sports events and whatnot, and I'm thinking like nobody that I'm aware of in my day-to-day life in the direction I was going in knew the impact of the Fed funds rate being dropped at this current time. Nobody even, I'm sure most people don't even really care, apart from those that are watching and know about the live stream tonight. So I'm thinking like radical monetary policy, and this is just my opinion, of course, but yet with radical monetary policy on one side, ultimately, in my humble opinion, should lead to unconventional personal financial response. And so I was watching, I'm actually just reading a good book. I'm actually going to be interviewing someone about the whole concept of retirement. And so you guys are going to enjoy it. I'm reading the book now and going to have it covered. I'm going to have him on next week for an interview, but it all has to do with the retirement paradigm and how, the narrative of go to school, get a job, save, invest, whatever. All that is thrown out the door. All that is thrown out the door because everything that it takes to do those steps of go to school, take out a student loan. People are graduating from student loans, can't pay it back. We got debt, credit cards. I'm going to share an article with you in a minute about how the middle class is completely tapped out. And so the only way they can keep the facade going that they're still in that stature or that class, whatever, how you want to put it, a class, they're using credit cards. So the credit card balances are going through the roof right now because people have to maintain. So all that right now is something to think about because we have rates being dropped on one end. At the same time, central banks are buying gold. So they're buying gold, they're pumping out paper, and you, the citizen, you average everyday person, of course, you guys are in the know, but for those that are not watching right now, those that are the millions of people that are not tuned in to what's happening in the financial realm, are saving and being encouraged to save and being encouraged to invest and they're being told to set aside these same instruments that they're about to ramp up this printing press, and people are being told to save that. So my opinion is that with radical monetary policy should hopefully lead to people rethinking and probably taking more of a radical approach towards their practical financial matters, given that we are now in unheard of times. And this is some serious stuff going on. And I don't think people really are paying attention to it apart from those that are in the know. So if that being the case, I'm ranting, but I apologize. The clock is ticking. If anyone has any thoughts or concerns, definitely highlight in the chat so that I can answer your question directly. We got Anthony from Virginia. We got 3CS3H from Canada. Anthony, I've never done It Matters. Says gold spike beautifully today. Yeah, so that's the thing. Hey, Faith, how you doing? I got you. I didn't see his. And so I want to get right to the articles because from the video I did earlier, and so when you put all this together, here we have, let me pull this up. Here we have institutions, we have central banks that want to remain independent. So they don't want nothing to do or have any intervention from the political realm. And their responsibility supposedly is to be able to, for the Federal Reserve, they have two mandates: control inflate price stability and unemployment. That's their so-called mandates. But yet, once again, how well are they doing that? But another thing is, so here's an article that I shared today on a video, for those that didn't have a chance to watch it yet, about what's actually happening. So here we have summary of current interest rates of large number of central banks. So every green you see on the screen, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 central banks have all dropped rates within the last year or two. And it wasn't just the Federal Reserve yesterday that decided to drop rates. We had, the rate cut here. We had one in Brazil, which was, a half a point. We got Turkey last week. It was 4.25. What else we got here? We got, who else is here? We got the British. This was last year. So all these banks are dropping rates. At the same time, a good portion of these smaller central banks are also buying gold. So as they're dropping rates, making it more affordable for the banks to do their interbank lending or whatnot to keep the commercial side of things going, and also just to make the borrowing costs in the country more available to more people. Here we have the idea that dropping rates about the easing in a sense. They're giving commercial banks a chance to then continue the fractional reserve lending side of things. So they're incentivizing banks to lend with the drop in rates. And then on the other end, while they're using the same maneuvers and possibly, and this is one thing I can't prove, but they're possibly using their very own currencies that they create to then go out and purchase gold either on the open market or however they get it. So think about this. If you're a private entity, you want to remain outside the control of your local government, talking about the Federal Reserve, but then again, you are using the policies to protect the commercial banks, and then you're taking that same currency, which is your product, in a sense, you're lending it to the government and getting it back with interest. You're taking that same product out into the open market and you're acquiring gold. So that's what's happening outside this country. And then, so there's so many banks. And so as of now, it says we estimate that the central banks bought approximately 375 tons in the first half of 2019. So 375 tons in the first half of this year. And if I was to Google the leading gold central bank holders, it'd be China and Russia. They're leading the way. Why? You know what I'm saying? So why China and Russia are heavily acquiring? They obviously know what's going on. And so it says the whole year, the global official sector net purchases for the whole year from 675 to 275 tons. This will be the highest level since the 1960s. And so between 725 tons total this year is expected. Here we have the accumulation of gold at a massive number, and it hasn't happened over the last 50 years. Why now? What are they all preparing for that is going to protect themselves from their own currencies? And so I went to the World Gold Council. So the World Gold Council, or this is gold.org, the Gold Hub, Bank of World Gold Council, so it's all the same. And so here are all the central banks that are part of the World Gold Council. And so it kind of gives a list according to what was reported from the central bank. So, of course, what's very funny is this red line at the very top is the Federal Reserve. So for the last, isn't it interesting that this goes back to 2000. So isn't it interesting that since since 1970 something, 71 probably, when they closed the gold window, that's when they stopped, redeeming those notes for gold. We've been at 7, according to him, according to this chart here, it says 8,100 tons. So we've been at 8,100 tons for the last 19 years or 18 years. And we haven't bought or sold, according to these charts here. But then if you go beneath this and you look at some of the other central banks down here. So I actually clicked on all these other central banks just to get an idea as to what they're holding. And you probably won't be able to see it, but I call it off for you. And more important, if you have interest in finding out more for yourself, you can just go, I'll give you the link here. So you can go check it out for yourself, because this is from the World Gold Council. But if you see these lines here, so right at around 2008, what happened in 2008? The Great Recession, the Great Financial Crash. The moment that monetary policy became radical. The idea that they dropped rates, bailed out the banks, bailed out GM, bailed out. And here we are 10 years later now. They raised rates a little bit too late, and now they're dropping them again. And so at that same time, we have, let me zoom in a little bit here. So here you can go by percentage. So these are all the banks that are starting to accumulate a little bit more. So we have purple is China. So apparently China had 1.4%, 1.4 tonnage according to this here, but we all know that it's sitting on more. The next one is what we got. We got Russia. Purple. No, Albania. It looks like Albania is sitting on 1.97 tons. Belgium is sitting on 40 tons, or 40% of its reserves is in gold. And so let me go back to tonnage. Makes it easier. And so here's a tonnage count. So Greece apparently, as of first quarter one, has a 112 tons. Guatemala has 6.8 tons. Brazil has 33 tons, and they just dropped their rates yesterday too. The real is in trouble. Belgium has 227 tons, and Albania and Russia has 400. And Russia has, according to back in 2008, they had 550 tons, and as of today, Russia has 2,168 tons. So from the time the Great Recession occurred, they had 531 tons, and as of this last quarter, they have 2,168 tons. And so China had 599 tons, and now they have 1,852 tons, according to what was told to the World Gold Council. So the leading gold getters, the leading central banks that's been getting their weights up is China and Russia. And all along, they've been issuing a large amount of currency into their economy, especially China, to prop things up because they're having a lot of internal issues right now as we speak. But here we have the whole premise that right now, just yesterday, Jerome Powell dropped rates. When you got the leading central bank on the planet reversing course, that lets us know that, to me, that the session has already been underway. Now they're responding. But the fear is that they can't call it a recession. They can't play the narrative of we are in a economic slowdown officially. So he threw out all types of words in his little press conference saying that they're keeping an eye on this. The FOMC was concerned about this. I forgot all the lingo they threw out there. But they threw all that stuff out there to not cause a panic. But yet, if the economy, according to Trump, is doing so well, but our issuer of our currency says our economy is not doing well, who do you believe? You believe who's getting their gold up. And when you have central banks purchasing gold at all-time record highs over the last 50 years, people, it's going down. It's been going down for a while, but I think it's a lot easier for those that may not have really believed me before, believe, other commentators out there to really recognize what's going on. But yet when you have central banks dropping rates, getting their weight up in gold, and all along the mainstream narrative of, remain practical with your financial matters, be responsible with your finances, save more. The issue with saving is what exactly are you saving in? And that's going to be something I think people will eventually, hopefully begin to question, if not really just, start thinking outside the box, because following practical financial advice, in my opinion, is going to get you caught up in this reboot of the monetary system as this thing implodes right before our very eyes. And so that is my rant for tonight. Yeah, man. Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to touch on. I hope all that kind of made sense. And so any questions out there, raise your hands or just give me a call. So no, what's going on in the chat, man? I've been ranting for too long. I don't even know who's watching. Is anybody even watching? Let me see who we got watching. Got to check and see who's watching. So we got about 85 people or so. If you are kind of feeling where I'm going with this, throw me a thumbs up in the chat so I know you're still present. If you're not feeling me, if I'm completely off my rockers, if I'm going down left field and I don't make no sense, give me a thumbs down. Either one is fine with me. But when you look at the weight, follow the weight. You know how the trend in normal times, the motto was always just follow the money. You want to know where things are happening. You want to know who's doing what. Just follow the money. That trail of money will show you who's involved, what's going on. Just follow the trail of money. Now, my advice to you is to follow the weight. Wherever the weight is going, that's where the next major decisions for our global monetary system will be made. And just to show you, throughout history, whoever has led the charge in weight and tonnage, whoever had the most gold, and so I doubt that change in the next, couple. I doubt that change in this next monetary restructuring. Whoever holds the most weight will call the shots. And so, let me see here. Here's an interesting article here, and I don't know nothing about it, but I just popped it up because it just looks like it's in alignment with what I'm about to say. So here's a chart. Here's an article from Goldcore, and just a very number that's on this thing lets me know that there's others out here that think that things are a little bit lopsided in regards to the price. And so this is as of June 5th on Goldcore, another great source. They got a good YouTube channel for those that aren't aware. But this is apparently from Bloomberg's China's gold price. So we all know that China, or we may not know, but we all know China is cooperating, and they're taking this beating from President Trump, especially today with increase of recommending and proposing 10% tariff. So they're sitting back and they're taking all this. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you are the borrower, and you're getting on the case of the person who's lending you money, and you're trying to play hardball, but yet you really need them to keep financing you, but you still playing hardball. So they're being patient, but while they're being patient, they're one of the central banks that are accumulating on all types of, they got Hong Kong, they got all types of ports and all types of places to accumulate gold that they don't even count. And so here's an article here I think is very indicative of what would happen in a reboot. And this reboot I'm talking about it says Bloomberg intelligence suggests the gold-backed yuan. And so we know that they have the gold exchange futures that came into existence, I think it was a year and a half ago. And the mainstream media says nothing about that. But in alternative media, you hear all types of things about how it's gaining momentum and it's being utilized more. And not sure if people are actually, withdrawing gold, but they're transacting in yuan heavily nowadays. So here we have the gold-backed yuan. And according to this number here, they see gold at 64,000 an ounce. So imagine a part of this next system that'll be the leading indicator of how they set and determine global price for goods and services. And so as of now, everything's priced in dollars, but there will come a time where everything will not be priced in dollars. And if by chance it happens to be priced in the yuan or a basket of whatever, we know from all this accumulation by central banks that they're not accumulating gold just to keep it in a safe and not be not to use it in some form or fashion. So gold will be a part of whatever's coming, just so the banks can know who's actually dealing with physical, tangible stuff as opposed to digits and paper, because they're all coming to an end with that. So if they were to say, hey, okay, enough's enough, let's go ahead and let's open up vaults, let's see what you got, I'll show you what I got. So apparently, you sitting on 8,100 tons, and we've been telling the World Gold Council for the last, couple of decades that we're sitting on 1,800 tons. Well, we've been lying the whole time, and we can prove it because we have vaults scattered all throughout our country, which contains the people's gold, the People Bank of China, the people's gold. And so I would imagine with all this hush accumulation, this is this hush accumulation from Russia and China, they've been quietly taking advantage of the manipulated price that the Federal Reserve has allowed to transpire due to the fact that, the U.S. has to cooperate or be exposed for, more than likely not really having 8,100 tons in the vaults at Fort Knox and in New York. So it's good to say that 8,100 tons of metal has probably been reappropriated, leased, melted down, smelted down, whatever. And I would imagine a lot of that metal was probably in the hands of other central banks. Don't quote me on it, but we're going to find out. But my point is, if and when it's time to reboot the system and get back to some type of fair exchange of value in reference to what country should be the leader or what country shouldn't lead the way into the future, if gold is $64,000 an ounce and we're exposed to not having 8,100 tons in the vaults, then people say we got gold in the ground. Okay, but yeah, it's hard to, you can't actually count the ounces in the ground per se. But yet, when the time comes, it says Chinese gold standard would need a rate 50 times bullion price. So this is an interesting article here. Talks about, and this is a billboard from a couple years ago about how the RMB, the new choice, your premier bank of RMB services, the world currency. And it's a gold yuan, which wasn't by mistake. And so this is what's going on. This is all the things that are happening. And when I see central banks breaking records and implementing radical monetary policy that goes against their own data, they're going against their own data. When you see that happen, all hell and broke loose behind the scenes. Now it's just a matter of time before it comes to the mainstream attention. But yet the problem is, by the time this stuff really becomes mainstream, it's going to come with either, God forbid, a war to prevent it from being presented in mainstream, or there's going to be some type of, I can see the U.S. not giving up easily. So I can see some type of power outage that would cause a mass panic to where it'll force everyone's financial accounts that are digital and on data servers all across the country to either be rebooted or powered out or whatever, to where it'll give people a like flatline for a second, so people can't check and see if their accounts are there. And I think it'll probably be easier to cause a panic of that nature than to all of a sudden have price of gold and silver break out to astronomical highs at the same time China and Russia decides to roll out their BRICS game plan. And so think about this: you got the BRICS, you got the AAIB, you got the swaps, you got all the currency exchanges that are set up for the yuan scattered throughout the world now. And all of a sudden, they're getting gold like never before. I think I made a pretty decent case as to why the system has changed, and hopefully you are changing along with it, or you have well before now. And it's 3:49 left. Any thoughts or suggestions out there? It says, does crypto work if the grid goes down? Peter, great question. As of now, I know that there's probably some ways of doing off-chain transactions, and I think a lot of the things they're looking to implement has to do with off-chain, to where you don't have to actually have power right away, but still be able to do transactions. So as of now, barring some type of new release on some type of technology, I believe that their power is needed. But if the power is down in the U.S., does not necessarily mean it's going to be out in Mexico or Canada. I'd imagine it won't be a global blackout. It'll be just, power outage in certain areas, or, and primarily that power outage is going to be used to implement some type of, national emergency, because they're going to say that it's a cyber attack from Russia and whatever else. So, that type of cyber security war is already under play. It's already in play now. They're going back and forth, blacking each other out and implementing bugs and stock exchanges and all types of stuff like that. And so it's all how to set up a way to frame another country so that central banks can't take the blame, because Russia's in the same predicament. They don't have as much debt as we have, but yet they got debt notes as well that people are holding on to. So everyone's in the same game. And speaking of, let me actually, Russia. So I can show you Russia dropped bank rates as well. And so let me see. I saw Russia on this list. I thought I did. Bank in Russia. There's Canadian interest rates, European interest rates. So here's the thing. What's even worse, that most people don't really realize, and not how fortunate we are in the U.S. If you're watching in the U.S. at this current moment, we're at 2.25, and by next summer, the way things are going, if not some type of intervention from war or some type of cyber or whatever, we could easily be at 0 or at 1 and some change, officially in a recession everybody know about with the panic, or quantitative easing, as Peter Schiff says, coming. Dropping a quarter point is basically incentivizing more debt, so it's already underway. But I wanted to show you guys Russia. Is it on here? Yeah. So the Russian interest rate. Let me click on this and see what happens. So here's Russia, and so Russia dropped their interest rates just a moment ago. So let me see. Russia, where is it at? Where did they drop? So their current interest rate is 7.25. They dropped a quarter of a point when they dropped. Russia dropped a quarter of a point not long ago. So, well, yeah, once again, everybody's in the dropping game. All central banks. So as of, Russia dropped a quarter of a point last week too. So not only did Turkey drop, so what is this? So I'm at the wrong date. So this past Friday, Russia dropped a quarter point. But we didn't hear nothing about Russia dropping a quarter point, but we definitely heard about the U.S. And then to wrap this up, out of all these banks here, Swiss right now is already negative. They're negative half of a point, so negative 0.050. And they just dropped, the last time they dropped was in 2015, so they haven't done anything in 4 years. So they've been operating in negative territory for 4 years. So if you look at this graph right here, this has been in Switzerland. And Switzerland, apart from it being an extremely wealthy place, it's expensive as I don't know what. But they've been below zero for 4 years, which means that if you have a savings account in Switzerland, you're paying the government to hold money for you. And that's just Switzerland. And so there's 2 other banks on here that are all negative as well. So when it comes to dropping rates and buying gold and people saving, that's what's going on, man. And so with that being the case, that's all she wrote for tonight. Clock is expired. I appreciate everybody tuning in, hearing me rant. And as always, right now, in my opinion, is the greatest time to utilize these Federal Reserve notes. All these notes is flying past my head. Think about what it's going to be like to continue to hold paper that's coming off the printing press and being created digitally at a faster pace. And to where it's going to be more competition for the current savings and Federal Reserve notes that you have. So, once again, with all that being said, I would imagine you can, put yourself in a position where if you're holding on to something that's being diluted, it doesn't take much time to lose the flavor and lose the taste and lose the purchasing power of those particular notes that you're holding yourself. But with that being the case, it's been great hanging out with you guys. And as always, some options. I can't let you guys go unless I remind you guys, for those who have not taken advantage of it, I got me a bag of coins here. But yet, once again, I got to plug it up to RTD Scary George coins. These things right here, as you can see over here. The link for those are beneath the video. So definitely, we have all the ample opportunities. We got more than enough weight, even if it's not this weight. Make sure you're getting your weight up. And then more importantly, as I mentioned, I automate my gold. So I've been getting gold for quite some time now. And in my opinion, it doesn't take much gold to preserve what you do or don't have. Because right now, this right here is as cheap as it's going to get, buddy. But anyway, so once again, if you guys are interested in getting cash gold, RTD Gold Team, definitely it's a way to automate your weight, get it up, and not think about it, and just, let it do what it do. So that being the case, it's been fun hanging out. I'm 3 minutes over time, so I have to go. But once again, it's been great hanging out. Enjoy your night. Peace. And don't forget to donate a thumbs up if you enjoyed the live stream right beneath this video. Peace.